Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming. Very nice crowd. It's good to have you here. Do we have any new members? I know we have one. Thank you, sir. And you explained why you're here. Welcome. Do we have any non-members, people who've been here for the first time? Okay. And what brought you here tonight, sir?
Surgery yesterday.
What?
My right eye. I can see perfect.
Do I look any younger? Thank you, sir. I'll give me the name of your doctor. And you, sir. Well, you came to the right place. You got a mini tour of our archives, and so we'll open up the office after the presentation. And please, come back and talk to John about all the stuff that's in there. Okay, we're going to mute people who have joined us online, so noise doesn't affect what we're doing here. We're going to take questions after the presentation. And if you folks online would like to ask questions, please use the chat function to ask questions, and we'll go through that later, and Jeff will read those off to the presenters. Okay, so in case if you haven't been into the office, we've got the sales table set up. Christmas comes early with the Canal Society. See, we've got brand new T-shirts, and we've got book selection. And we've got to, make us a deal, used books there. So please take a look, and we enjoy having you do our sales table. Lots of Greenway stuff going on, much too much to talk about tonight. Lock project in Wharton is still off track. We're hoping by the end of the year, they'll have the lock straightened out, and we'll be able to be partnering with them next year. Plane 2 in Ledgewood is finally under contract, I believe, Margaret. Yes. And so that work will be done this year or early next year, and we'll be doing a sign project with those folks. Thank you very much. We've got some sign projects going on. Darcy's Pond in Montville, that's complete. Those signs have been delivered and they are now installed. We're working on signs for Griffith Park in Boonton Township. Let's say, wrong page, in Dover, and actually in Newark, something very different for us. So we're looking forward to that. So okay, we're hoping that some of you enjoy what we're doing and enjoy it enough to help us out. We're always looking for volunteers. We're doing more and more and more stuff these days, and it's all good. It's all fun, but we need lots more people to help us do those things. So, Bobby, will you raise your hand? Our volunteer coordinator, who did a marvelous job of twisting your arms gently to come and help us out. We don't need people to be heroes and give us all their live long day, but helping out once in a while is a real pleasure, and we love to partner with you folks. Please see Bobby and hopefully volunteer and help us. Let's see, T-shirts, breaking news. Okay, probably the thing that I need to mention, and I'm almost forgetting, is that our archives are doing marvelously in a very short time. We've only been here for about a year, and our archives are a huge collection of stuff that was basically inaccessible before. But now the gentleman who's going to speak with you momentarily, who's ignoring me completely, John, come and tell the folks about the archives.
Good evening. My name is John, and I'm stuck in the archives. Yeah, you've been updated a little bit on our progress, and we're doing pretty well, and we're in a good spot now. But the latest good news update I have is that, and you're going to be getting an announcement. Look for it starting tomorrow. A blast email. We're going to open the archives for research. So you can make an appointment to come on in, have an idea what you want, and you can just do what you need to do. So that'll be, we're going to be excited about that because it's the first time we've been able to do that. We're at a point now that we can handle it. So you just go on the website, you can go on the contact, put in your request, and then we'll get you going. So that's where we're at.
Please remember though, before you make an appointment, that you really need some idea of what you want to look for. This isn't like this is not a snipe hunt. This is not like a search through the shelves. It's, you have to have some idea, and then we'll be glad to help you follow your quest. Janice.
I guess I'm shorter than everybody else. I had just a couple of housekeeping rules. When the presentation is over, we are going to move everybody out of here. The food will be going over into the office, and we have to clean up the chairs as quickly as possible so that the cleaning crew can come in, because we are now corporate. We have to be out in time. There's one other thing. Oh, if I remember, I'll come back. So, and everybody, as soon as the presentation is over, out we go. All righty, thanks. There's something. Oh, I remember. We changed the refreshment stand a little bit so that you can now sit down over there and then come on in through here. Does that seem to work with everybody? And you want us to keep doing that? Okay. Just a positive.
Okay. And is everybody hearing okay in the back? Okay. So actually next time, January, when we see you again, we're going to have a bigger screen. We're getting our own screen on a cart that we could wheel in. And so the viewing is going to be even better. Announcements. Bill, you had something to announce.
Yeah, I'm wondering, how many of you remember one of our members, Mark Hamill? Yep. Mark ran the Waterloo Day for a number of years. And was quite a historian and collector. He died 8 or 10 years ago. Oh, a year and a half ago. Okay. His brother Russ, who I know, delivered 7 boxes of stuff from Mark to my house. A lot of Erie Canal stuff. That was his real interest in the Erie Canal, plus ceremonial plates and all kinds of stuff. So it's out of my warehouse and into yours now, Joe. While I have the time I'm here, on the Liberty Historic Railway website is a database called Excursions and Railfan Trips. In that, I have put all of the major Canal Society trips, just the date, and a brief couple of sentences or a paragraph about what it was, where it went, and whatnot. So if you need reference for dates or when these things happen, just scan it. It's very easily searched. Not a problem at all. Thank you.
Other announcements, Bob?
How many of you people know there's another canal in New Jersey besides the Market? Just a rumor. Just a rumor. Yeah. Well, this rumor is celebrating its 50th anniversary with the DNR Canal Commission and the DNR Canal State. 50 years, 1974. They were both legislated by the state of New Jersey. And in that celebration, DNR Canal Watch put out another calendar for 2024 that has pictures that were all taken by people who use the canal. And it's a fundraiser for us. So if you'd like to buy one, I have a few with me, $20. And it's a nice big wall calendar. All these pictures were taken by people who use the canal, most of them almost on a daily basis. Oh, here's a project that Canal Side, New Jersey donated to, putting a new roof on the bridge tender station at Kingston, and some other pictures here. So if you'd like to get a copy, see me before I leave.
Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
I know Bob is kidding us, but he's kidding us about kidding us. We are doing more and more with the DNR canal these days. As Bob said, that we are investing in projects, we're doing repair work on buildings. And so that's all good, but we do have 2 canals in the state and we need more assets around the DNR canal. So anybody around here, anybody, all you folks who really love the DNR canal, please, come and see me and let's talk about how we can develop more interest and tell more good story about the DNR. Okay, no more announcements. Rich, no. Okay. Everybody gets a chance. All right, tonight's presentation, 2 of our favoriteest people, Jim Lee and Margaret Hickey, are going to tell us about our Morris Canal Historic District National Registration update. So it's a very big and very complicated project, and they're going to tell us all about what they're doing. Jim and Margaret.
So I'm just going to introduce Jim because I'm waiting on his information to proceed with my information. But so we talked a lot in the last couple of years about the Morris Canal National Register Historic District, which is 18 pages long. It's a great document, but it was written in 1974, as you all are aware. It can be useful, particularly when supplemented by your full catalog of books and articles on the canal. However, it has probably two major flaws to it that causes some consternation when we're trying to preserve features of the Morris Canal. So the first one is actually the New Jersey Historic Preservation Office, which I'll also refer to as SHPO, has a difficult time with the boundaries of the district with regard to regulatory decisions because the boundaries are not actually clearly laid out in the 1974 district. So it's actually one of 3 districts in the state that causes them the most problems. And so they are looking forward to the National Register nomination being updated to being able to actually provide the mapping of the districts, which is most of what Jim's going to talk about this evening. They are dreading sort of the nomination review process, but Jim and I are kind of hoping to make that process easy by putting together a well-researched and well-coordinated document. The other problem is right now, the nomination only goes to the period of 1921. There is a SHPO opinion that brings it into the 1930s, but it's only a SHPO opinion. So they have some issues there with if anybody ever challenged that opinion, they really don't have too much leg to stand on. So one of our goals is actually to solidify also the period of significance to include Vermeule's dismantling and, other related stuff. We dealt with this actually when the Lake Apacon train station, we did a boundary increase to include the train station because it was kind of part of the overall history of the Morris Canal. It wasn't recognized in the original nomination. It was an easy process for us, but by actually solidifying and making sure the boundaries are right, we don't actually have to do that piecemeal work anymore. That's what we're trying to avoid. So our goal is to finish up the mapping towards the end of the year, and then we can start going into writing the actual nomination in the beginning of the new year, and we're going to start the field work as well. So it is a lot of work. It's going to be both a lot of research as well as a lot of traipsing through along the canal, which I'm looking forward to. I just need to pencil it somewhere in my calendar. And then we'll be we will be good to go. So I think we have another full year. I think we're anticipating, and then we're hoping by early 2025 to be able to actually submit the nomination, but a couple of meetings with the SHPO next year, make sure we're on the right page and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and now Jim's gonna lighten me as well.
Just want to add that one of the other reasons we want to do the boundary expansions is, as an archaeologist, you're able to capture properties that are near the canal that might not merit their own listing, and protect all these little sites, like little archaeological sites. Like there's a site I'm going to show you coming up. So my name is Jim Lee. I work at Hunter Research. I'm the principal archaeologist, and we've been working on this project for little over a year. We're doing a lot of the research and a lot of the mapping, and we'll be doing a fair bit of field work as well. And let's get started. So the research that we're doing, we've found it's best to conduct it by collection. So we originally thought, well, let's collect everything in Essex County first, and collect everything in Passaic. And but what we've figured out is get everything out of a collection. And we're not doing perfect scans of everything, we're taking a lot of photos. It's really to know what's in each collection. And if we need to go back and get a special map, we can go back and get that. But there's still a lot of stuff. And once we bring it back, we divide it by municipality. And then we divide it by, as it says, the county and station number. So I'll get into that. We are doing a lot of research at the New Jersey State Archives, which luckily Hunter Research is across the street from. They've been very, very helpful. And I know the Canal Society is also entering into an agreement with them to do a lot of scanning of some important documents that they have. We've also done a lot of research at the Canal Society of New Jersey. Thank you guys for opening the collections. We're on that website using it all day. So it's great. I spend evenings on that website. We also doing a big collection of Sanborn fire insurance maps, which they're from the 1880s. I think they go into the 50s, but not really concerned about that. But they show downtowns in great detail. They have names of who owns buildings next to the canal. They say, they show coal yards. They show people who are dependent on the canal. They show, water power coming into certain buildings, things like that. So they're very important as well in the urban centers. They're not. Yes, they say what the buildings are made of and how many watchmen are there at night. We're looking at the Jim Lee Senior Collection, my grandfather's collection, and that's a whole bunch of stuff in file cabinets, a postcard collection, and of course we've also been looking at a lot of Bob Goller stuff, that the Canal Society has received in the last few years. Most importantly, the photographs that were taken by Vermeulen mostly during the dismantling period, the 1920s, which are really helpful to figure out what might be left over there archaeologically. Where the Library of Congress has a fair amount of stuff. Habs Hair is a Historic American Building Survey, Historic American Engineering Record, I think. And they, in their records, have lots of really good detailed drawings, lots of stuff for the canal. They're very particular about what they accept, so their records are really nice. They do make a couple mistakes now and then. A dam my dad built in the 1980s was listed briefly as a weir on the Morris Canal. They took that off. They fixed it. I just checked it a couple weeks ago. There's lots of local collections around that are like, Warren County has a collection. Other McCulloch Hall has a collection. And then there's lots of books on the canal, a lot of picture books, lots of regular books. We are looking through all of them. We're gathering it all up. As I said, we're organizing it by municipality, and then we're organizing it by station number. And the reason we do it by station number is so that you can look at a map of the canal, see the station number, say you are looking at a property in Little Falls, and you're going to know it's between station number Passaic 076 plus 00 to 076 plus 050 or plus 50. And then you can go to a table and you can find out all the documents that may relate to that location along the canal. So it's a way of organizing things in a linear fashion. we got this out of a survey that Hunter Research did at the DNR Canal in the early 90s, where we used their station numbers and arranged all the sort of resource descriptions by the station numbers. It works most of the time. We recently hit doing something in Passaic on the feeder, and all of a sudden we realized there's a dam on Greenwood Lake that the canal company built. That's nowhere near our station numbering system. That is 13 miles away. So we're figuring out how to deal with that. Okay, so the mapping. This is Little Falls, as I was just mentioning. And these are the white faded things are the Weir surveys from around 1890. They're commissioned by the Canal Banking Company, and they're a pretty good delineation of the canal and canal properties and canal-related buildings and structures all along the canal. We chose these because they're fairly accurate, and while they don't include things that were on the canal pre-1850, they do represent sort of the big build out of the canal. And what we did was we brought them into ArcGIS, a geographic information system, and we georeferenced all the maps. So some of these maps are 9 feet long, and if you lay them out, they won't lay down perfectly on an aerial of New Jersey. What happens is you need to cut them up into lots of little pieces and twist them and shift them. And I have to say, Evan Midlowski does this. I do not do this. Thank you, Evan. But what we think we're finding as we're cutting these things all into little pieces is maybe it's the end of the day and they take the machine down and they set it up the next day and they're not quite on the same setting. They're a degree or two off. And we're finding that happens with a lot of bridges. Maybe they're setting a theodolite up on the bridge. I'm not sure, but they just seem to be a little shifted at bridges. So we're doing a lot of this cutting up and georeferencing it. The red line you see is the currently official Morris Canal Historic District boundary. And then we've put these historic maps on top of that. Okay. And we've created a baseline. So this blue baseline is our station numbers. And this is in Passaic County. So you can see it's PA something, something. And then there'll be a different one for Morris, Warren. But this is the basic way we have the research organized. Okay, so getting back to the research. We've been going over to all these institutions, and I send a couple of people over, and they just roll through the stuff. And they take lots of notes, they take lots of photographs, and there are several thousand images on our server. There will probably be tens of thousands of images on our server as we go. And we're finding all kinds of cool stuff. Like I said, I could spend all day looking at it. This is a map from the Pompton Feeder was built in 1837. This is a map that shows the main branch of the canal, Pompton River Aqueduct, and then this is the feeder going up and off up towards Pompton Lakes. And it's painted. It's great. It's very similar to the 1828 survey maps that Lorenzo Sykes created for the canal. But it's a slightly different style, but there's a series of these that show where, this is an area called Meads Basin, and this is how it was configured in 1837. It doesn't look like this by 1850. The buildings are in different places. I think the basin might be a little bigger by the mid-century. So that's great information to have. Okay, Newark's. It's a little bit of an unknown as far as the canal, what's left over. I have two things here. First on the right is the guard lock. I think it's 20 on the Passaic River. There's not a lot of great photos of the guard lock. Very few, actually. And it's an interesting one because it's a guard lock on the Passaic River where the canal has a spillway that goes out into the Passaic. And the boats were then pulled by mules over a little here, and then across that bridge, which is one of the plank bridges, I think, maybe, I'm not sure. And then pulled across the Passaic River into a little channel over across the Hackensack River and then up into the last section of Jersey City. But that's a great amount of detail for a site where there's, that's under a highway. There's no grass there. it's not like you can go out to the breadlock and see where the walk walls were anymore. And then this is another good one. This is plane 12 East. This is the last inclined plane on the eastern end, and it's in Newark, and it's a double inclined plane. There's only 3 of those. And this is another nice map that shows, it doesn't show great detail for the inclined plane, but it does show Coal Yard, Zion Methodist Episcopal Church here. And it shows other sewing machine works. It shows these adjacent properties that in many cases we're using water from the canal. I think this is the outlet, the tail race for the powerhouse, which is right there. And I think this is water coming out of that sewing machine store that is then flowing down into the canal, going down to downtown Newark. This is just a cool thing I found that I didn't know about. I'm sorry, it's a little faded. This is an 1832 drawing of a proposed plane tender and brakeman's house that would cross 12 East. This is actually a fly bridge or a bridge of size that went across the inclined plane at 12, and one side was for the plane tender and one side was for the brakeman. I'd never seen this thing. And then you see all the great architectural detail. I don't know if they built this and then took it down by 1850. I don't think they did, but it's dated 1832. Yeah, and it says plan proposed for a building at plane 12 East. And what you're seeing is these are the rails, the 2 sets of rails, and the cars would have gone up through that opening. So it's a pretty cool piece out of the archives. Maybe we can get a good scan out of it when we get. But we're collecting everything, and sorting everything gets to be the issue. Okay, here's another more recent drawing. This is a drawing that was done by Lehigh Valley Railroad, where they were going to refresh the trestling in the Little Falls Aqueduct. And I just wanted to show this one because while it doesn't show an overall plan, it shows so much detail in how they were going to fix the Little Falls Aqueduct, which started out as a stone aqueduct with a stone trough, and then it started falling apart by the 1870s. Lots of bits were falling off of it. And then they put a trestle work inside of it, in the trough of it, and supported it with trestles above the channel that went across. And this is just, I thought, a great technical drawing and a great example of some of the stuff that's this is State Archives. Okay, and then as Margaret mentioned, the canal doesn't end in 1924. It gets dismantled for the next 5 years, to about 1929. This, I think, is a great example of the detail of a dismantling drawing that Vermeulen created. His father got the contract, or was told to do it. It's Vermeulen's doing it, Cornelius C. Vermeulen, but his son is also actually, I think, the one doing the work on the job. I hope I got that story straight. So this is a Vermeulen dismantling drawing. This one is dated, I think, 1924, sorry. And this is showing all the details at the lock, the guard lock at the north end of the Pompton feeder. It shows the location of the house. It shows the lock. It shows that he wants a tremie wall stuck across the lock so that when this floods, it doesn't blow out the lock, because he's dismantling it. He's making it safe for everyone to sort of occupy. It shows new revetment going into a new dam that replaces the Pompton Dam on the feeder canal. He's showing this inlet gate here, which you don't see in the photos. These are 2 18-inch concrete pipes that were put in, I think, sometime before the dismantling to allow water to be brought into the system. North is that way, sorry. He switches it all around. One of the other things I thought was cool about this is Morris Canal locks are largely, they start out as miter gate locks, and then they get drop gates on the upper end. This one never got a drop gate. I believe that's because a river was flowing. It's a guard lock. It also wouldn't fit a 90-foot boat. It's short. So it never got updated, I don't believe. And the last time that was looked at archaeologically, they found timbers of the gate, the upper miter gate, in the ground, still there. So and because it's so close to water, that water is going to preserve all the stuff that's probably thrown down into the lock, which we just learned at Lock 2 East. That was still wet. And, you know, the gearing that was on top of the lock was tossed in, was all preserved in the water below. And there was one gate that was kind of on its side, and where it was above the water level, it was kind of rotten and gone. But below the water, and even the deck of that lock, it's like fresh wood. It cracks like it's a new piece of wood. So these dismantling drawings are real important, and they exist for every little feature on the canal. Hundreds and hundreds of them. And they say also have things like remove the top 3 feet of the lock and cut it down to this grade. So when you go out there, you can see and kind of know what to expect out there archaeologically and kind of reconstruct. We also went through the photos. So these are all dismantling photos. This is, I think, Third River Aqueduct in Essex County. One of my favorites, this is the pumping station on the Hackensack River. And this pumped water up with a big paddle into the last section of the canal going to Jersey City. They didn't have enough water flow from the hillsides to fill it. So they took water up out of the Hoboken or Hackensack River to fill that last section of canal. And that's just a great shot of that pump house. It's entirely gone now. And it's all just phragmites and sort of a muddy swamp there. But there was so much there at that. That's 21 East, which is also a guard lock. And there's a whole series of photos from that location that shows a bunch of sunken boats in that basin. You know, it's very tempting. This is just a good shot of an aqueduct. This is, of course, Waterloo. Yep. And this is showing two-part lock. Part of the lock was stone, part of it was a wooden flume because it needed to preserve water rights from the mill that was just up the hill. And so it had a flume that went under. Yeah, and then that's lock 1 or plane 1 west. Just a nice shot of one of the plane tenders' houses. So we were gathering all this stuff. What were we doing with it? Ron, we're going to. Yeah. I think you mentioned that before. It's hard to find now because of the phragmites, but yeah. Thanks. Okay, so mapping. It's not just a matter of taking those historic maps and putting them on top of the modern aerials maps and shifting them around, rubber sheeting. We gathered base layers, we georeferenced those Weir survey maps. And then very importantly, what we are finding, and this is every archaeologist is loving this right now, these LiDAR derived hillshade maps. I'm going to show you a lot of those, but we compared them to the georeferenced historic maps. And in many cases, you can see where once we finished georeferencing, the canal said the prism was here and the LiDAR shows it's just a little bit up. So we did a lot of base comparison with hillshades before we created the baseline. We also, used all the maps that we're putting in. We're digitizing the footprints of buildings and properties and stuff. And then there's a whole bunch of other little maps that we're putting in as we go, like those maps I showed you in Newark. We'll probably put those in individually. Okay, so it looks a little messy. Normally we do this in GIS, and I'd be zooming around and zooming in and out. But as you do that on a computer, it like constantly refreshes and it's like just flashing and flashing. So I just took screenshots. So this is a section. This is again the Pompton feeder. This is the guard lock here. And it's showing the Weir survey maps, georectified, and then it's also showing the hillshade maps. And there's a couple places where things really sort of diverge. At the top end of the feeder, there was a really big guard bank that went around this one island. And you can see that here. So see this line? And see how this line is they're not quite lined up. They don't have quite the same geometry. That's where it is. It's not there. So even though you're georeferencing these maps and it all works down here, you have to go in and look and see where things really are. And this is I think 15 years ago, I would have done this by going out with a GPS and shooting and walking this and shooting a line. And then putting that in GIS, and it would show me that there's a bunch of dots off. But now the DEP makes a 2-foot hillshade available for everybody for the northern part of New Jersey. And so that you can also see the center line of the canal is the blue line. Okay. The red line is the canal historic district boundaries. It's missing the canal. So there's the lock tender's house on the guard lock. It's outside. So some of the lock outside of the official boundaries of the canal. And I've been on sites where I was allowed to dig on one side of a house, but not on the other side because it was within boundaries of the canal. Without, yep. And so let's see. I have another shot. This is without the weir maps on, and you can just enjoy the hillshade maps. You can see all the detail in here. You can see, plowed fields and little drainages coming here. But this guard lock, this is the Pequannock spillway, which was rebuilt in 1928-ish. It all comes around, and this brings together the waters of the Pequannock and the Wanacue and mixes them with the Ramapo, and they come down here, and somewhere there they become the Pompton. Never figured out exactly where. All right, another example. This is the lots of lines here. This is where the main branch of the feeder goes up, and you have the feeder goes up, and the main branch comes across. And we've started mapping resources here. This is a lift bridge. These are 2 lift bridges, Erie Railroad, DL&W. Yes, thank you. And this is kind of a neat. That's a bridge. That's just a towpath bridge. It's not a road bridge. It's a towpath. There's lots of good pictures of this area right here. And then this is the bridge tender. I guess it's a bridge tender's house. It was a maintenance guy that lived in there, and this was a basin, and this is the Pompton River Aqueduct. Thanks. And this is the current boundaries of the historic district. They kind of miss it. And at the end, I'm going to tell you why I think they're missing it in a lot of ways. So we think we figured it out, and it's nobody's fault. It's just a kind of a weird mapping thing. But so what we did is you can see the way this is drawn on the historic map. And when you line it up with the LiDAR, you can see the prison and the top end of that basin wall clear as day. Sorry about that. And then that's where the abutment is. There's still a bit of that brownstone abutment there. And like I said, this is where the official boundaries are drawn. It's not quite catching that basin. So no. Okay.
Going back to that, are you trying to expand the historic district or move it where it's supposed to be?
I think in most cases we're going to be expanding it, but the idea is to correct it. I mean, this was part of a canal property, so that'll stay. I don't know that I have. Is that data in there? Yeah. That was owned by the Morris Canal Banking Company, so that's going to stay in no matter what. But we want to capture the resources that are not currently within. That's our biggest goal. And it's not just archaeological stuff, but I'm an archaeologist. That's what I am. There's definitely lots of houses and existing houses along the canal. There's actually, I think there might be one right on Meads Basin that probably should be in the district. Okay, let's move on to Morris County. This is Plain 1 East shipping port. We were actually out there mapping some stuff today. And we have, I'm afraid it doesn't show up too well. These are dismantling drawings that are georeferenced to the inclined plane. And that's help us find where the powerhouse was, the lock tender's house, and where the tail race for the powerhouse was. And when you take away the maps, you can see several features here. So this is the inclined plane is here. Lock tender's house. There's another building foundation there. This is where the water came out from the powerhouse and went into a pond. that ran a forge site right here. And you can see that straight line is a wheel pit, and there's a wheel pit next to it. These things I think are actually hearths from a forge. Never seen them above ground before in my life.
There are photos.
Yeah. Yeah, they're great. Yeah. Another thing you see clearly is, I think that's a sawmill, right? Yeah. And you can see it on the LiDAR. Now, that's using water from this upper section. With the canal comes in here, kind of fills this pond. There's a towpath across. So these are all sort of canal related properties. And right now, I don't think I have the historic district boundaries here, but they're not in it. So there's a lot of things that even where the canal just goes a little away from the district boundaries, but there's also these things that should be added on to the edges of the canal that aren't currently in them. So moving to Warren County, can everybody see the canal? It's this big line that goes right up the middle. That's not a highway, that's the canal. Route 57 is here. But that's what the hillshades bring you when you have these features that are linear earthworks. They simulate sun shining down across the surface. I remember when I was in grad school in the 90s, they'd go flying planes on days where it just dusted with snow. And they would take aerial photographs on those days because the snow would bank up against earthen features and it made things like stick out more. We don't have to do that anymore. So I just wanted to show we're still working on our mapping in Warren County. We're mostly through Morris. We're in Warren, and we're getting to the stuff I know a lot better. This is probably New Village, and Merrill Creek's up here. But this is a really cool little section. I just wanted to show you how much it sticks out in the landscape. And one of the things we're also doing with, as far as the field visits are concerned, is we're looking at this, and then we're looking at where we should actually go visit. Because there's a lot of times, say the other side of Patterson, where the urban development is so thick, and we can see it across the line of the canal. I don't need to go through all those people's backyards, or in between the highway and the route and the parkway cut. We can kind of see it's not there. So I'm not ruling that out that I'm going to be inspecting all these little areas, but it also helps us sort of eliminate areas that we need to go visit and check on and ones we don't. So it helps us sort of plan our field work.
In these LiDAR pictures, are they taken from an airplane?
They're taken from an airplane, and they are they're lasers, and they are bouncing off the ground. And there's billions of them hitting the ground as they go across the surface. And the thing with LiDAR is that you can then run an algorithm that removes the vegetation. So it goes across the ground surface, say a piece of woods, and it has a lot of fuzzy hits that are higher up. It has a bunch of solid ones lower down. And it knows that the solid ones are probably the line of the ground. And so we love aerials, but when there's leaves on the trees, you can't see this stuff. And once you pull out the vegetation, it's just a game changer. And then you can see, see all the field rows. I mean, you can see which fields are pastures and which ones are plowed. It's really great. We're also using aerial photos. And so this is one of the reasons we think that the earliest iteration of the Morris Canal boundary is a little off. And that's because the 1930s aerials, unfortunately, that's right after it was dismantled. They don't have 1920s aerials, except on the shore. They have a series of them on the shore. The 1930s aerials are shifted a little to the north. What happens is you have to go in and take the smaller aerial and re-georeference it, and then it works out. But the generic 1930s aerials that I think the canal boundary was partially determined from are shifted a little. So that's why you get little things like this feature here. It showed there. It also shows up there. The next one is shifted higher than that one. And then you can also see the train tracks down here. They're shifted like 20 feet, 30 feet. That's enough to really throw things off. Now, that little feature there, there's a little close-up of those. There's pairs of two boats. I didn't say barge. I said boats. I think those might be Morse Canal boats in a big sort of raft out in Newark Bay. And some of them might be, lighters or the more traditional barges and stuff. But I just see a lot of them in pairs. They almost seem to be stuck together. So where are all the boats? The section of canal, I think, on that shore of Jersey City, I think they dewatered it right there. They just because it was just an embankment in between the canal and the bay. So maybe they just came out there. But it's something I saw a while ago, and here's what it looks like today. So half of it is under there. And the other half is, yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So our next steps, completing the research. We have a few months more to do it. And then completing the mapping. We're going to be mapping all next year. and then the fieldwork and documentation phase, which we hope to start soon, especially before the leaves get on the trees and we can get out there in the winter and kind of walk around some of these places. And we'll walk around with clipboards, hard hats and safety vests, so nobody asks us any questions. Then we have to work on the boundary justification. So we have to start figuring out which parcels we want to include, which ones we don't. And we got to come up with justifications for why they're included in the district and why they're not. Preparation of the nomination form and presentation to the New Jersey Historic Sites Council. And once they approve it, we go to the National Park Service. So that's something we're shooting for in 2025. And that is the sort of process, and that's where we're at right now. Does anybody have any questions? Ron? Yeah, I think we should call the Army Corps about that. Yeah, next time they're dredging in the bay, make sure they swing over there. Yep.
You mentioned Essex County. You have the survey that was done about 10 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
You have the drawings in that area in Essex County.
Yeah, are they not in the archives? Are they somewhere else? Or I thought we did. We have all the Vermeule dismantling photos. I didn't go look for the dismantling drawings for Essex. If they're at the archives, we've collected them. Oh, that'd be great. Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah.
So now the GIS map is that that shows all the elevations all along. Do you have all the buildings on there? The outline of all the buildings?
Well, it depends on which map we use as a base layer. We can put an aerial and see the buildings. It doesn't show, they don't show up well in hillshades. We can look at the there's tax maps, there's base maps that are created, that are supplied by Esri, the maker of ArcGIS, that have buildings on them. So yeah, we have lots of building data that comes in that we can look at. So those layers underneath that I was showing you, there's 40 different other base maps you could use, and they have them. They're available on servers. You can pay for data, but we're using mostly freely available data from the New Jersey DEP.
But so you're not building a single map. You're just building all the different layers.
I'm not building like a 3D map. We will be digitizing every canal related building we see along the route. That'll be in there. There'll be little rectangles and stuff, and then with GIS, those rectangles will have data associated with them. So you can click on this thing and it'll say, shown as owned by J. Johnson in 1851 map, or this, so all that, the idea of a GIS is it's maps, but it has data embedded in it with everything. Yeah. Pierce? Yeah. Yeah.
We got from an elderly member. He was about 100 when he told this story. He had started as a mule boy. The captain kind of drank a bit. 2 pints of buttermilk was over and up in the morning. So he was known as Buttermilk Cook. So Dick, being a teenager, being 13, now Steelworks blew a warning whistle around 4 a.m. And the first thing that Dick did was got the mules to high ground,
Hmm,
which was up on the tree.
yeah.
And then he came back to the buttermilk and then got his stuff out of it. And this is direct quote. And then the dam busted.
Uh,
Just love that because that's the way he spoke. And that's the way he was quoted in the Star Ledger.
that's great. What year do you think that was?
He had no education beyond very fundamental.
Mhm,
And maybe about the equivalent to third grade.
okay,
He went to work when he was a kid.
thanks. Anybody else? All right. Thank you very much. Oh.
Maybe some questions online.
Okay, yeah.
So for starting off, you have, you're keeping track by station points.
Yes.
Is that different from Weir track dog?
Yeah, the station numbers on the Weir maps do not add up.
Okay.
I'm not disparaging his surveying abilities, but when you start measuring from dot to dot and he says that's 100 feet, sometimes it's 85. And that could be aberrations with the way it's copied or reproductions. So we're imposing our own station numbers on the whole. That's start our county.
Records are what's key to the land records.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll use those to figure out who owns the properties. Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a little chart on every one of the Weir maps that says, you know, who owns which tract. And then some of them say how it was returned to the canal, how it was gotten rid of by the canal company at the end.
Jeff, do we have questions?
We do not.
Okay,
So all of this work that you're doing is going to go to, having the registered nomination.
yep, the idea is to,
This is the whole process in itself.
yeah, we're gonna redraw the boundary.
So
And it's gonna go from a 18-page National Register nomination to a 1,000-page register nomination. Yeah,
obviously the first preservation office
Mhm.
and then to.
yeah, they sign off on it and then the Historic Sites Council reviews it and says whether they accept it or not. That's a bunch of appointed people that review it, and then we have give a little presentation. And then it all goes down to the National Park Service. And we've already had a visit with them to the canal to walk the alignment, and we've discussed how to do it. And so we've already started consultation with the Park Service.
This is a really big deal. And so, then this information that you're gathering will be deliverables and we will.
Oh, yeah, you're getting all of it. You better buy a big server. Yeah, Ron? Canal Society, New Jersey.
Although we are staying, because I know Warren County paid for the home.
I think that's a separate project.
We're talking with them now.
Okay.
Sometimes they even call it back.
Yep.
That's a good side.
There's a lot of good stuff. And then you'll be able to look through the materials that we give you from the archives and start picking what you want, then prioritize other things to scan.
So Jim, your final report will strictly be digitized,
Oh, yeah.
nothing in paper.
We'll probably have to print a copy or two, but it's gonna be thousands of pages.
20 cents a page.
I mean,
I would block the convention figuring what you're doing. Because they change every year.
yeah. Well, with GIS, we could actually, right now, I could get Evan, I can't do it. I could get Evan to tell me, hey, show me every parcel that attaches to the Morris Canal Historic District. And he could generate a list and, we'd wait, 30 seconds and there'd be a list. And it'd be tens of thousands of properties, right? They'd be organized by municipality and stuff like that. And they would also, he could show us what they look like on a map. They'd get big in some places and they'd be small in others. And we could just print out a list of all those properties. So we will be tracking that in GIS. I'm sure there will be a pretty big Excel table that we can generate out of GIS to say, parcel, block 42, lot 1 in Roxbury Township, owned by so-and-so, Prism and Towpath, or, edge of Plain 1 East or something like that.
Is that who owns it now or who owns it historically?
The nomination is most, well, we have to track who owns it now. There are a series of notifications that we'll do. But I mean, historically, we're keeping track because we want to see things that are owned by the banking company. And we want to see things that are owned by, Ryerson up by the Pompton and things like that we can sort of include into the district. And that might be a reason to include them. If they're owned by people who are associated with the canal, that might be a reason to sort of bring that property in.
I heard the question, but I didn't hear the answer. Who is paying for all the work you're doing?
The Canal Society of New Jersey.
Wow,
Yes.
that's big bucks.
Yes. Hunter Research is a subcontractor to Connolly and Hickey. And
Donations, thank you very much. This is what we do.
and I think it's going to save a lot of, it's going to make it easier for the SHPO to save a lot of properties.
One more question. Lawrence Canal and Banking Company owned property that was not on the canal.
Yes.
Wood Lake, Cranberry Lake, et cetera, et cetera. Are you mapping that stuff as well?
I think Greenwood Lake has to be thrown on there. Yeah. And then the Cranberry Lake over there. And what's the other one up there? Up on Lover's Run above Waterloo. There's a couple of little impoundments and stuff that the canal company owns. Yeah. Bear Pond. Thanks. So, yeah.
It sounds like there's a lot of economic impact as a result of doing this to people who own properties. Can you talk about that a little bit?
A little bit. If you have a property and it's listed on the National Register of Historic Places and you want to do something on it that doesn't require federal funding, you can do whatever you want. If it's on the State Register of Historic Places, and you're a private person and you don't need any permits or anything like that, you can do what you want. But if you take public funds at all, then they get to review what you're doing. I don't know how the Highlands rules might apply to that and what they might mean, because they have some different rules. Yeah. Yeah, if you have if you're a municipality with a property that's within the boundaries of the district as defined by that red line, you have to, if you want to put in even a pedestrian bridge to help the greenway, you have to do an application for project authorization under the State Register Act.
And also properties developed for grants, county level, state level, so that's, there's some advantage to that, and one of the reasons why we listed that the Packard train station was to be able to get grants.
This is all good to know, but a lot of it goes to creating the Morris Canal Greenway, keeping the remains of the canal viable and useful in the 21st century, and this gets incredibly complicated. And so when everybody's scratching their head wondering what's up, you are finding the answers to help us do what we do.
Yeah, well, we're helping you sort of define the canal as a resource to preserve.
Any more questions, folks?
This gonna help us get across the river at Waterloo?
Can you walk on?
It's already in state ownership, so it's
what?
it's already in state ownership, so and it would be available. And the canal goes through there already. So if they could have got a grant, they would have got one, right?
They have a grant.
We have a grant.
Oh.
We have two grants. They're managing to do both, actually.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Margaret, do you have anything to say to end this off?
No, just, wish us luck.
These are two of our favorite people.
It's a daunting task.
Okay.
So we must exit. Just
shortly.
Stop the building, you're welcome to come into the office.
Okay.
Just-
Before you get up and run away, I need to thank our tech people who waded through a mountain of dysfunctionality and but in the end, pulled it all back together again. So let's hear it for the tech crew. And Bobby, who made the salads. And those terrible cupcakes.
All out so beautiful.
Yes. Hopefully you enjoyed. You demolished the food, and that's exactly what we like to see you do. So please join us in our offices for a while. And thank you for coming tonight, and hope to see you all again in January. Happy holidays.